With every price increase, it takes a small piece of your life. You go to the market, the same bag, but more expensive than yesterday. Rent goes up, gas goes up, bills go up. And at some point you realize the issue isn't the small price increases one by one. Something is slowly slipping out of your hands. Most people can't quite name this feeling. They say, like, the economy is bad. They say, that's just how the market is. But deep down, they know this. With the same amount of effort, you used to be able to do more. This isn't an illusion. And this situation isn't anyone's fault either. What we are witnessing is actually a very quiet but very consistent process, repeated across generations. There's no noise to it, no announcement, but its impact runs deep. Because inflation doesn't just change prices, inflation determines over time who gains power and who loses it. For most of us, inflation means loss of control, uncertainty. The question of what will happen tomorrow. But for those at the top of the system, inflation is not uncertainty. It's something planned, something managed. It's useful for governments because it's a way to collect money without saying it outright. Raising taxes triggers backlash. Inflation is silent. No one checks the box marked inflation on a ballot. For companies, it's comforting. They grow through debt, and debt becomes lighter over time. Figures that look heavy today slowly lose their meaning. Inflation is, in a way, an illusion. For those who own property, inflation isn't a problem. It's an advantage. Because what they own, homes, land, stocks, rises along with prices. Their debts don't grow at the same pace. But there is an important distinction here. This doesn't apply to every kind of debt. Credit card debt pulls you downward. Fixed-rate long-term debt can lift you upward. The gap between those who understand this and those who don't turns into a chasm over time. Some grow stronger through debt, others grow weaker because of it. That's why inflation doesn't just revalue money. It revalues knowledge. Those who understand how the system works gain an advantage. Those who don't are doomed to lose. This isn't new. For centuries, money was something limited. It was tied to gold. It couldn't be multiplied easily. This disciplined governments. When they made mistakes, the consequences were immediate, but at the same time the system was prone to collapse. In the 1930s, that fragility collapsed. As money gained value, the economy froze. No one spent. Debts became suffocating. At that moment, the world learned something. Sometimes letting money lose a little value is better than letting everything stop. After World War II, countries were left burdened with massive debts. Paying those debts was mathematically impossible. No one said it out loud. But everyone knew it. The solution was simple. Instead of paying the debt, they reduced the value of the money. Inflation quietly stepped in, and it worked. 1971 was the moment the game completely changed. Money was no longer tied to gold, but to words, to trust, to the claim that this piece of paper has value. From that point on, money became limitless. But responsibility did not. Money was abundant. Access to it was not equal. Newly created money entered the financial system first. Banks, markets, large corporations. By the time it reached ordinary people, prices had already adjusted. This process has a name, the Cantillon effect. But most people experienced it without ever hearing that name. The 2008 crisis exposed this reality. The system was about to collapse, and it was saved. But life didn't get easier for people on the street. On the contrary, it became more expensive. Asset prices recovered quickly. Stock markets rose. Homes gained value. Wages stayed where they were. This wasn't forgetfulness, it was a choice. The same method was repeated in 2020. This time money flowed a bit further downward, but the structure didn't change. Because once a system is built this way, small adjustments don't make it fair. Inflation was always described as temporary, always said to be under control. But over the years, its effects accumulated. 2% sounds small, but over 20 years, it takes half your money. And during that time, people are pushed to do certain things, take risks instead of saving, consume instead of waiting, borrow instead of trusting. Inflation changes behavior, not just wallets, but mindsets. It punishes patience, makes planning harder, keeps people living with a constant feeling of falling behind. At some point, the goal is no longer to earn more, it's to stay in place and to protect what you already have. And the hardest part is this. This system doesn't crush you because you're lazy or because you did something wrong, but simply because you're standing in the wrong place. That's why some people call inflation natural. Others say it's inevitable. But rarely does anyone ask, inevitable for whom? Inflation isn't fire. It's oxygen. It keeps the system alive. But oxygen always feeds the fire too. And in this world, not everyone stands in the same place. Some are close to the fire, some are stuck in the smoke. Every generation realizes this too late. But for those who do realize it, something changes. The question is no longer, why isn't it enough? The real question is this: who does this system work for? And perhaps most importantly, where do you stand in it